I can hear the clock ticking. Yeah, it's hardcore. Okay, it says we're live. I didn't see the countdown, but that's okay. Okay, so we have 2 viewers.
All right.
All right, let's get this started. So, hello. Welcome to K.I.S.S Recovery 101. K.I.S.S is a wonderful acronym. If you're familiar with a certain program, it stands for Keep It Simple, Stupid. And I like that. I know the Keep It Simple theme. But once I heard the stupid part, I kind of liked that because it dumbed it down for me. I couldn't keep it simple. And that in turn kind of made me feel stupid. So don't be stupid. Keep it simple. And we're going to talk Recovery 101. And all that really means for me is the basics of recovery. And what that looks like is keeping it simple and talking about it and not lying or hiding it or feeling ashamed about it. I've finally crossed over into a place where I need to talk about it, and I need to talk about why it works for me and why I don't live in that shame anymore. I live in this thing called freedom to be myself. I never have a reason to lie, and I find joy in just being truthful. Anyways, I would like to introduce our fabulous first ever guest. His name is Jason, and we met at Fridley, meeting consecutively on Tuesdays, 6:15. There's this great group, but I'll let you talk about that. I found that 2 years ago, and since I've known Jason, he's kind of known me in the very beginning at my worst, up to almost 2 years later now. I'm at my best that I've ever felt in my whole life. I don't even recognize myself half the time. I definitely don't want to remember who I was before. And when people say that to me or even bring up who they remember me as before, I've kind of just totally grown away from that I don't even know what they're talking about at first. And I'm like, oh, wait, yeah, that was me.
You need to be reminded of that.
I was that person in the back, quiet, antisocial, and hating life. So, but Jason, why don't you introduce yourself and maybe talk about, you know what? I'm not going to control this. You just introduce yourself and give a little spiel about yourself.
Cool. All right. So my name's Jason. I'm an alcoholic and I'm an addict. And yeah, Bridget has come a long way. I think the beauty of this, the keep it simple, stupid, I'd always thought it meant kings in Satan's service. Isn't that what K.I.S.S? No. But no, the keeping it simple is what it's all about. And it's changed everything for me. I've seen Bridget come a long ways in this program, and it's cool seeing her doing all this stuff. And so I gladly help out. But the beauty of keeping it simple is that when this conversation you can have with people is that as alcoholics and addicts, we always love to overcomplicate things, and usually that's a good excuse to not have to do it, right? So we overthink it and think, oh, I can't do this. I have all these contingencies, I got to get this job first and then I'll do the steps. I got to do this and then I'll do I got to, me and my girlfriend got to straighten this out and then no, you just got to do the steps. And the beauty of what I have been doing this last several years is back to basics of recovery, which is 6:15 on Tuesday nights at Fridley. And the beauty of that, when I found this program, it's based on a book by a man named Wally P. That's an archivist for AA, and he was like for Bill W. or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I read this book, I knew this was my calling. And so I started back to basics here again at Fridley, and I've kept at it every Tuesday. And the beauty of it is that we go through all 12 of the steps in like 5 sessions, and we've got it down to a pretty good art now, but it's really an open-ended thing. But what we do is keep it simple for us stupid people. because we got to do that. But and it's not, it's easy, but it's not. I mean, it's simple, but it's not easy because you just got to do it, you know. And a lot of us are afraid to do it. But the beauty of this is that we take the fear out of it, especially with those all important 4th and 5th steps. We take the fear out of it. We break the ice there. We get the ball rolling. And I think that's huge for people.
Oh, yeah, especially with step 4.
Yes.
I mean, that is a scary step. But let's back up. Let's pretend some of these listeners don't know what you mean. First of all, when you refer to Fridley as in...
Fridley Alano Society.
Fridley Alano Society.
Minnesota, 6279.
6279? University.
6279 University Avenue.
Okay.
Fridley, Minnesota.
And then the steps. So again, this is just a community of recovery. They might, you know, what I love about Minnesota Recovery Connection is we welcome all paths to recovery, whatever that might be. And there's so many paths. And I know for myself, I needed several paths at first. Like one way, one person telling me to do it this way or that way, especially my rebellious mind. I'm like, I don't like that way. I want to do it my way. I don't really like what you said there. So now that's my reason not to come back here. But now, you know, I'm way past that. And once I could oversee, you know, a lot of boundaries that I had set for myself, just in general, to trust people. Once I let some of those down, I found that a lot of the things I read now, I see with new glasses. And I connect so much better now that I'm, what's the O and how?
Open-mindedness.
Yes. Open-mindedness. And then the willingness, you know, I was willing, but the key thing was I was missing the O, like I wasn't open yet. Yes. So steps, when you are referring to steps, what does that mean, Jason?
So the 12 steps that AA puts forth, and they're a beautiful process. Now, most of us in recovery, just like Bridget said, we put blocks up for ourselves, and we do it almost subconsciously as an excuse to be in our addiction, right? We say, oh, we can't do that because we're different in such and such a way. But the steps of AA are laid out in a way that you'll hear this a lot. What we need to recover is honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, right? How or whatever. And that's the biggest part of this. And if you're honest about stuff, those excuses you put out there, why, you know, just like Bridget, you said,
bridge,
you know, or bridge. I'm sorry, bridge.
Yeah,
yes, legally bridge.
It's legally bridge.
Yeah, bridge. I'm sorry, but what Bridge was saying is, oh, I didn't like that, so therefore I won't come back. Well, a lot of times we do that so that we keep in our addiction. It's an excuse to stay doing what we're doing. A lot of times we even use our upbringing or the things that have happened to us. And, you know, we are a product of our culture, our upbringing and stuff, but we can break that cycle. And if we're honest with ourselves and we're open-minded and we've been beaten into that willingness, you know, by court, hospital, whatever,
yeah,
you're ready to do these things. And like, so the 12 steps are all about, you do them one at a time, 1 through 12, and you do them to the best of your ability. And
in order.
And you're never going to do them perfect. You do your best. There's no such thing as perfection. I think people that call themselves perfectionists have put up a roadblock right there again, because there is no such thing as perfection. But you shouldn't stop. You just do it. So, yeah.
Oh, and I still do try to perfect things. Through a lot of therapy and group therapy and reading and self-reflecting, I realized that stemmed from my environment. I did not grow up in a loving environment. There was no I love yous in my home, no hugs and kisses. So when I was able to really see like you talk about those roadblocks for 17 years of my life. That was my defensive mechanism for many people.
Mhm.
And so it wasn't that I meant to be that way, but that was keeping me safe. And so the perfection thing, though, I got off topic for a second. I just wanted acceptance, and I just wanted to be loved for so long. And so if I did things perfectly and everyone saw me as this, overachieving, successful person, they would accept me and they would love me. And I still have that urge I just want to be accepted. But it took me a long time to realize. One person said, it's still in my mind forever in the group. He said, Bridge, the enemy of good is perfect. And that took me a minute to process. And I think I posed a question to the group because they're like, Bridge, what do you want to work on? What are you having trouble with? And at this time I was running a women's meeting on Wednesdays, and it was that night. And I'm like, I'm so sick of this. Every time, I get so excited about this meeting and I'm over planning all these things. And when it comes down to it, I half-ass pull them off. They're not like to the, max of what I wanted. And like, how do I keep it simple? I'm asking the DBT group. And that guy laid it out so simply. And he's like, the enemy of good is perfect. And once I realized and processed that, I'm like, what the am I doing? Like, why don't I just keep it good? Make sure it's good first. Stem from that. And from there, if I want to make it great or like this amazing thing, and it's so wonderful, because he didn't realize that changed my life. Because after that meeting, I simplified it. I made sure it was solid and good. I had the key important things good to go, and everything else, if they fall into place, they do, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm stressing myself out, and I'm making this meeting awkward because I'm overthinking the shit out of it. Yeah, and once I made it like, show up on time, listen to what every single person says, and have something consistent that people can rely on. That's all I needed. And from then on, it just seemed, I had a lot of comments saying, you really seem like you've got this. Like, you make it look easy. And I'm like, I do? Yeah, you're right, I do. Because mostly all I do now is really listen to everything everybody says. Where before I'd be in La La Land. Okay, I got to make sure that I mention this. I got to make sure that we talk about this and we close with this at this time. And now I don't care about any of that. And I set alarms, so I make sure to be on time. But one of the key things, so there's this really big book that we're talking about, the 12 steps. Yes. But I overcomplicated the shit out of that book. So for years, I didn't even know the how was an acronym, how it works. Mm-hmm. I think it was in one of your meetings that you're like, the key things are.
Over and over, I'll say it: honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And if we're going to keep this simple, really, the 12 steps sound like a lot of steps, right? Mm-hmm. But all they talk about is we trust in our higher power, we clean house, and we help others, right? That's right. All we do. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that, right?
Right.
So, yes, I think that's the key. And everything that we're talking about, and Bridge just mentioned the big book. Well, AA, the big book, that's what this is all about. The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is a fantastic book. It lays everything out there that we need. We just keep it simpler because some people, it's a lot of reading, that first 164 pages of that book. There can be a lot in there that you can't pick through. And that's the beauty of Back to Basics, is looking at those parts of the book that refer to those particular steps, And it all starts with, and we'll talk about this maybe a little bit, but the surrender part of this.
Oh, yes, we're definitely going to talk about that.
Yes, because that's where it's at. And that's where, I've been around the program for, almost 30 years now. Yeah, really close to 30 years. But this time around, it'll be coming up on like 7 years of sobriety. Woohoo! So I had a lot of things, but I had a lot of slips in there before because I didn't fully surrender. But this last 6 and whatever years had been beautiful because I really did surrender. And that, like it promises, that temptation, the desire was lifted from me, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, I never experienced that before. I always had cravings and thought about it all the time. It hasn't been that way at all because I really did a surrender, and I was very honest with myself. And I think, that's where you start. Just be honest. Honesty is key. And open-minded and willing.
Yeah, can all go together. Well, and I love that you said, in the big book, you really focused on those first 164 pages. So I just want to clarify that. So for years, again, I looked at this big, huge book, and nobody, for whatever reason, just straight up told me, well, the first 164 pages are the how-to, like the text part of it. And the rest is the stories. It's a big book of stories. So if someone would have told me that, I might not have been so intimidated. Like, huh? And one thing that's wonderful with Back to Basics. So I have been in recovery now 19 years. And in December, I will have full, true, honest sobriety at 2 years.
Nice.
So I, too, was a struggler. And I, too, was a chronic reuser, had many reoccurrences. And a lot of that was my own things. But a lot of it, I didn't even realize how much I was lying to myself. Like, I had become so wrapped up in my own psyche, that I didn't even realize how much I was lying to myself. Like, I wasn't lying to be evil or for selfish purposes originally. I was just lying to protect myself. I knew what I was doing wasn't right. I knew this isn't the way I should be living my life. And if you asked me a question, right away there's a wall that came up. Like, why are you asking me this question? It took me a long time to even trust the people in these rooms, because I'm like, why do you want to know that information? What are you looking to get for yourself from me? Like, I didn't want to believe that people were really here and just cared about me for no reason. They just wanted to do nice things for no reason. What? Yeah. I have never experienced that. So it took me years. I think when I finally really started to consistently go to meetings was 8 years ago. And again, like I said, it was very intimidating, the book that was written, 100 years ago, for 100 men. So there was a lot of verbiage in there, like you said, that I would be like, oh, nope, that doesn't relate to me. I'm not going to. I got up and left many meetings. Very rude. I was a very angry person. I'm so glad you never saw that side of me. Very angry and lonely and just miserable. And if I didn't like what was being talked about, I just got up and left. And that's not willing or open-minded. But when it comes down to it, they say there's two core emotions, love and fear. And so anytime I feel anything icky, I know it's coming from fear. A lot of times it shows its face as anger, but that's just that's that sub level. But really it stems from fear. So whenever I feel angry about something, sometimes it takes a while, but I have to reflect and say, what am I scared of? Because right now I don't think I'm scared of anything. Like, what? But it does. It always comes back to it's because I'm scared of something. So anyway, though, step 4, like you were talking about. What is step 4, Jason? Well,
first I'll cover 1, 2, and 3 really quick.
Yes, the surrender steps.
Yeah. So the surrender, like I was talking about, is a key to this program. And so right away it talks about, Bridge was just talking about how we rebel at certain words or phrases and those become like excuses or blocks for us that we put up there. And just like Bridge said, the book was written a long time ago by white conservative men in the Midwest, but they were doing the best they could with the language that was at hand to reach the most people they could, and I would see the word God and I'd be like, oh, this is not for me, or whatever. And it does say God in there, but we have to look at it as a personal thing in your own, not shut the door on spiritual matters. Just don't shut the door on it. You just be willing to give it a shot. That's it. And so 1, 2, and 3 are the surrender steps. And the first one, people say, this is the only one you have to get perfect, but you're not going to get it perfect either. There's no
never.
such thing. I'm telling you,
Progress.
no such thing as perfection. But you should be able to nail this one pretty good if you've been anywhere near where we've been. And the first one is admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives have become unmanageable, right? So that's step one. And when we can do that and look at our lives and go, yes, my life has become unmanageable. Not my drinking has become unmanageable, because it probably has. And my drug use, if you're talking about addiction, has become unmanageable. No, my life has become unmanageable because of this ailment I have. And it's not the drugs and alcohol that are the problem here. So put that right out of your mind. You have this addiction thing going on. I mean, this can apply to you'll see the word alcohol in those 12 steps one time, because that's not the issue.
And that's but a symptom.
It is. And so if we can admit that, then we can say, okay, well, do you concede your innermost self that you're an alcoholic or addict, right? And I say, yeah. I think Bridge has said
I will say yes over and over.
And so we're at number 2. Now, this one can be a struggle, but this is important to be willing, okay? And that's why, so step 2 says, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, right? It says came to believe that a power greater than ourselves. It doesn't say, oh, you found God all of a sudden. But rather than shut down any spiritual concepts, we just ask ourselves and just be willing. So the big step 2 question is, do you now believe, or are you willing to believe that there is a power greater than yourself? And I say, yeah,
Yes. And let me just elaborate on that one a little bit. I love that it's worded a power greater than yourself. Because, yeah, I don't like that. Well, that's, maybe metaphorically. But a couple of things that finally did resonate with that, because I have my own personal spiritual higher power. I think originally God to me was good, orderly direction. Okay, good, orderly direction, sure. But when I was at my lowest of lows, I didn't believe in anything. I didn't have hope. I didn't have faith. At the worst of the worst, I stopped liking music. That wasn't even therapeutic for me. And and at the end of the day, I stopped checking in at night. People call it praying, whatever you want to call it. That when I knew I was in a dark place. It wasn't shortly after that I almost lost my life. And I don't ever want to forget that black hole that I was in, because I never want to get there again. I'm surprised. I'm so thankful that I was able to get pulled out of it. But there was nothing I believed in. So when I got my ass back into these rooms, literally the only power that I could believe in was the power that I felt in the rooms, especially when I found a group of women, and they loved me when I didn't love my damn self. That was powerful enough for me to keep coming back and keep trying. And from there, it allowed me to start opening up again and to start to get some hope again. Because at that point, I lost everything that even mattered to me. My children were not in that home with me. I'm about to lose my house. I didn't care. I wanted to lose everything. I was right on that border of the fuck it's. Sorry, my language. So I'm very glad that certain things happened that kept me from making that other choice. So the power in the rooms, I say 9 times out of 10, I will walk into a meeting and I always feel somewhat better. Usually I feel a lot better. Mm-hmm. But that little, even if I hear one little aha thing that somebody said that I'm like, oh, I like that. It might be a small power, but that got me back on the track. Oh. And now, like, my higher power is my go-to person at night. I do a daily check-in because I need that. Yes. And I need that higher power. But it has to be something bigger than you. Mm-hmm. And my sponsor, Marcy, shout out, she's beautiful. And I think at one point she said to me, well, okay, how about this? do you believe I believe in a higher power? Marcy, she said this to me. Bridge, do you believe I believe in a higher power? I'm like, well, obviously, yes, Marcy, I know you do.
Mhm.
She goes, then let's just go with that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on step 3.
Yeah.
And back to you, Jason. Sorry.
No, that's perfect right there too. And the group is a power greater than yourself. I mean, they're doing things that are beautiful, you know. And it can be weird when you first come in. You almost, because we come from this. Well, let me back up just a little bit.
Sure.
We come from a place when we're coming in here where we have not only been, this is right out of the big book. We haven't only been physically ill, we've been mentally and spiritually ill, right?
Oh,
and so
yeah.
we're missing all these things, and the spiritual part of it is can be hard to grasp at first, but if you just roll with it without shutting your mind off from it, things will happen. And it's almost strange coming from where we've come from. You come into this group of people that really want to help you.
Yes.
And it's almost it makes you uneasy. It's like, what?
I'm like,
What do they want?
bullshit.
How much money? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's free 99, right? This
Free
program is
99.
Free 99. You don't got to pay $1 million to some treatment facility or whatever. This is where it's at. And if you're willing and open-minded and honest, you're gonna get somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we come from this place where our familiar patterns of being rebellious against anything that has any spiritual terminology, anything like that. We use our familiar behaviors to block ourselves off from something really good.
Well, I think in general, that word religion scares a lot of people off.
Yeah.
So I think
it did me.
Yeah, I think it's universal that I like to say words like higher power or spiritual program is not a religious program, and just finding spirituality.
Yes.
Fuck the R word. Like, don't even use that word. I don't ever when I can, because it does people down, especially a lot of people I find that have had a bad religious childhood.
Oh yeah.
You know, that can close a lot of people off when they come in the room. So yeah, just kind of flipping that helps open, you know, people's minds.
Yes.
So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you didn't. And that's a great segue for talking about how, like I said, you know, the big book was written in the mid 30s, basically. I mean, this was a long time ago, and they were trying to be as inclusive as they could, but they use the word God a lot, and there's a lot of Christian background there. But your concept of a higher power, if somebody tells you that your concept is wrong, they're wrong.
Oh yeah.
Because it's a personal, very personal thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody comes and tells you it has to be Jesus or whatever, I'm sorry, but no, it's whatever.
I'm gonna have to walk into this room over there. You continue
exactly.
your conversation with yourself.
Yeah, you guys go on ahead there, but but it's a very personal thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, when you're looking at these steps, Bridge will do it to it where we kind of reword some of the steps, not to take away from the beauty of the AA program, because they've helped millions and millions of people. But we want to be really as inclusive as we can, especially in Back to Basics or with newcomers or whoever is struggling with whatever, because we don't want them to be scared away like we were with these, you know, these words and stuff. And it's your higher power. This is a very personal thing. You don't have to all of a sudden be religious or spiritual or any of that. Just be willing. You know, that's all.
Well, and that's what I love about Wally. Through just starting at your meeting and reading the book, turns out he wrote another book from Back to Basics that's called Back to Basics of Recovery. It's, you know, pretty much the same thing. Although I love him and his wife, Britt, because they have totally just said what you said. They want to open it up to everyone, and just using terminology that most people can connect with is so important. Connection.
Yes, very much.
And Wally is like awesome, because I ask him questions, especially when I started doing workshops with you and stuff. I'm like, well, can we do this? Or how do you feel about that? And him and Brett are like, yes, do that.
Yeah.
Please don't even bring our book into the workshop. Like, it's meant to be a guide.
Yeah.
And you guys do what works
Yes.
for you. And that's the most important thing for spreading the word. If it resonates with you, people will feel that. Don't read from our book. He actually said, don't bring the book in the room.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So, okay. And that worked out great for me, being the Mr. Disorganized guy, where I just wing it. And I like to feel the room will be different every time, or it was for many years, where 1 week it's whatever, 2 people, and the next week it's full of people brand new from a treatment facility. Well, I'm going to try to get them in as hard as I can. I'm going to try my hardest to reach out and have something effective for them to hold on.
You are the Yoda of that, Jason.
All right, Yoda.
I'm serious. Like, if I could pick a superpower for you, would be you are a room reader.
Yes.
And it's not like you stare people down or anything, but like, you can just pick up on the room, maybe a couple things people say, even I think body language, I don't know how you do it, but it is a superpower. You read your room so well. And I've been going to your meetings for so long that I've always been in awe of you, because I've literally watched you do it in less than an hour, because I've heard of people that could do this, go through all 12 steps thoroughly in an hour. And I've heard people speak on this, and I read about it, and I'm like, bullshit, you can't do that. And Wally would tell me how they would do that, like in emergency situations in a parking lot. Some of the like old timers, like his sponsor, could do it in like 20 minutes. I'm like, bullshit. But then I watched you the first time do it, because one new person, which, that newcomer is the most important person in the room, and you do that every time. And we're sitting here at the last session last week on 10, 11, and 12, and that person comes in, and you're like, oh, okay, well, let's just do a run through of all 12 steps. I'm like, how the hell, how is he going to do this in an hour? And you did it. And so every time I know that that's about to happen, I totally listen intently, because I'm like, how does he do it? How does he do it? Oh my gosh, he does it every time. Hands down.
It's like an auctioneer. I don't know if they hear anything. No,
but you do it with such grace and wisdom, and it doesn't feel like it was rushed. It felt like it was what Back to Basics is meant to be, is just a simple overview, so that you're not so intimidated by these 12 steps and the big book. It seems so much more down to earth, and like, wow, that's what it is. All these years, I was beating my head with this book, trying to be thorough and perfect, and I couldn't even get through step 4. Sorry, but I will let you continue. Are we on step 3?
I appreciate that. No, I'm waiting for my humility plaque.
And you are the most humble person I know. Seriously.
No. But that doing those over and over every week, it keeps me in line. And just like we talk about, I said we trust in our higher power, right? We clean house and we help others. The help others part can start happening very soon. And I encourage people this is a we program, we all do it together. And so that's the beauty of this. And I love it that I have to go through these steps over and over, because man, I forget real quick. I'm kind of a dummy, and I'll forget them. But with the program, the beauty of it, again, I always say that the beauty of the program, the beauty of it is that we don't go through the steps and then we graduate.
Right.
We can go drink normal now.
That was a rude awakening. Yeah. Wait a minute. I just did 12 and we gotta start all over again? Would you want me to live in these steps?
Yeah. What? But you find that living this way is such a great...
Oh, yeah. Now I live in love in the steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my go-to.
Because, you can live wide open. You can look yourself in the eye. And you don't have to lie. You don't have to lie to cover your lies.
Right.
You don't have to think about the lies.
You're going to love my end quote.
Wait, what did I tell that clown about this, that I would wait? None of that's going on anymore. So you've changed, and you're looking for that psychic change. Yes, that's what you need to happen.
When that happens, and I didn't even notice it right away, but
you sometimes
people notice it.
Yeah, other people will notice those things, and I hear this said by a friend of mine, Brian. Brian, shout out to Brian.
Shout out to Brian.
He says, if you see something good in one of your fellows, don't hold back. Say it.
Mm-hmm.
Praise them for it. Say, man, you're doing great. I really like to see this, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is, because we need that encouragement. And a lot of us don't even notice those changes that are happening to us, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing.
It still floors me when people I knew 8 years ago when I was first coming to Blaine, Illinois, don't even recognize me. At first, I'm a little like, what? You're like, I'm Bridge. Like, I known you for 8 years. And then when it kind of starts to click, then I'm like, oh, this is a good thing. Because when I look in the mirror now, I actually like who I see. I actually love myself. And that took almost 40 years to get to that point.
Yes.
And so now it's like, wait, that is a compliment. I don't want to like look at that person anymore because I didn't even recognize that person. I don't even know who that person was. I didn't even know myself, let alone love myself. So yeah,
But
totally.
we don't forget the past or
shut the door on it. You can't. You don't want to repeat those mistakes.
No,
but you don't have to live in them.
Yeah,
and beat yourself up over them.
But you got to remember that dark place that you came from in order to, you know, sometimes you need a reminder because you can all too quickly just, I'm all good now. So I think I can drink now today.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. Yes, and that's why like newcomers, I'm like,
it's coming up
on them. It's just if this is true. Oh gosh. Oh yeah, we'll get to the comments in a minute.
Oh, cool.
Let's see what time. Oh my gosh, it's already 8:36, Jason.
Dang.
Okay, let me just really quickly. I think I was gonna say something smart, but I'll let it come back to me. It must not have been that smart because it's fleeting.
Smart. Simple.
So let's look at the comments, and then we're gonna do that segment I warned you about.
Yeah.
It's called the hot seat.
Oh boy.
3 hot and heavy questions.
Oh my.
And I just encourage you to answer them, but of course I'm not going to kick you off the show if you don't, but it's called Hot Seat.
Right.
Okay, but first let's take a look at let's interact a little bit, Jason.
We can't hear you. Can you repeat that? No.
Oh, I got some nice comments. Love this bridge. It's awesome. There's a long one. Okay, so this is amazing. The first time I tried to get clean, someone gave me a big book. They told me if I read it, I would stay sober. I read the entire book that night. Wow. And I stayed drunk and high for about 5 years. Jason, are you listening to this?
Mm-hmm.
I came back in and someone read the first 164 pages to me over several days and then showed me how to be willing to work the steps. I have been sober ever since. Oh.
Yes.
The power of one addict or alcoholic working with another is a level of understanding that is a miracle. Keeping things. Oh, I can read the rest of that. Keeping things. And then ... Ooh. That's beautiful. Do you have anything to respond to that? I love that they pointed out. I want to read that again. The power of one addict or alcoholic working with another.
Yes.
Is never thought. See, I never did step 12 because I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I could sponsor anyone. I'm not qualified. Like, I don't feel like I really know what I'm doing. And what Back to Basics did for me was quickly and often get through them once, get through them and just start working with another person because there is no qualifications. I had one great person, Tim, at Blaine. I've seen him in Fridley. I was really questioning being a sponsor because 2 of my sponsees at the time were struggling and I felt like I was failing and I was ready to say, maybe I shouldn't be sponsoring. And this great guy, Tim, at a meeting over in Lock Park group, shout out. They meet at Lock Park on noon every day. They're wonderful. And he sat in this little cooler / he called it the humble box. And he said, Bridge, to me, the only qualifications you need, and this might be a little bit over the top, but I needed to hear this, is 1 day sober. Then to me, you're qualified. And he's like, really, it's just about being there. You're just being there and supportive. That's all you need to be a sponsor, Bridge. So don't stop. Yeah. Keep doing it. And it will come together. And thanks to him, I continued sponsoring and I learned a really good word called boundaries.
Yes.
Because I can't save everyone all the time, every minute of the day. Like, I can just do my best, and that's all that I can offer. I have,
Precisely, but that's beautiful that they put this out there because it's all about helping others. It's the power of one alcoholic or addict working with another. It's handing somebody a book and saying, "Hey, read this." It's gonna no. You need that human interaction. You really, really do, and that's why we encourage you to get a sponsor or somebody that's going to help you through.
or
this
sharing
because-
partner.
Yeah, sharing partner,
Accountability partner, whatever label you want to give it. Everybody, a lot of people are big on the labels. I say there's no need for labels.
Yeah,
You just find one person, start with one person that you feel like you connect with, maybe build some trust and start there. And then you can start, I was able to start building a small circle. And that circle now I consider a family in this recovery world, the family I never had. Blood don't mean nothing. And I am so close to these people in these rooms because they just love me unconditionally. And they know I love them unconditionally. And there is no judgments. But really quickly, shout out to Juliet, who's listening. Mark. Oh, Mark's on. Just give him a shout out too. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, we're going to try to keep monitoring that. Time is flying. Nice. So let's go to the hot seat. Jason, you ready?
Yeah, hot seat. Oh, man, I'm nervous.
Okay. So what the hot seat is 3 heavy questions. And they're meant to be, my idea behind them is they're meant to, if there's someone else out there who also might need the answer to this question. But like I said, it's, I'm not gonna, I
haven't heard these questions yet.
So this one I don't think so bad.
Okay.
Okay, but they're heavy. You're in the hot seat. You ready?
Heavy.
Okay. Jason, what was your, I would say, very rock bottom moment? What would you say was the rock bottom?
Oh, man, I've had a bunch of those, so I'm not really sure.
Pick one.
I can tell you, I'll give you 2 really quick ones. So,
okay.
There was a time when my best friend fell to his death drunk. We used to climb, like, scale parking garages in hotels and climb mountains and do stupid shit. But he fell to his death drunk, living in Nebraska. I was in Minnesota, and I had been sober for a little bit. But I drove down there and got hammered on my way down and got a DWI on my way. His sister had to bail me out to be a honorary pallbearer. And I remember, and I still kept drinking for a while, but I got myself locked up after that. And there was a long rock bottom. And, I went to the hospital, all kinds of stuff. But that didn't quite do it. But there's been many, I
call them trap doors.
Yeah.
There's trap doors of those rock bottoms.
Yeah. And
you can have multiple.
Some people's rock bottoms are death, and mine was close to that.
That is the ultimate rock, 6 feet under rock bottom.
Mm-hmm. But I couldn't pinpoint just one specific one. There's some.
You said you had 2.
Oh, man.
Do you want to go into that one?
Another one was with my ex-wife. We went to visit my family, and this is normal for me. And we go down there, and my family's living in this rundown old doctor's compound. There's monkeys in the cages, the doctor's pet monkeys. They're running a video business out of there. My brother opens the door with like 500 locks on it, and kicker locks, and there's guns along all the walls. And we walk in and hit my friend in the head with the door, and he's in his own puke on the floor. This is normal to me.
Yeah.
And my brother,
this is like a movie.
Brother's like, "Hey, it's been a long time. Oh, nice to meet you," to my wife at the time. And then he's like, "But I dropped this 8-ball of meth behind the hot water heater, and there's all these cockroaches, and there's an 8-ball of meth back there." I'm like, "Oh, I'll get it." And so I grab an AK-47, pull the bayonet out, put a piece of gum on the end, and I'm sticking it.
This is like a Quentin Tarantino movie.
The 8-ball, and look over, and I just glanced over, and my then wife had this look on her face, like, "Holy," Yeah. I was like, "Wait, this is normal?
This is not.
This is not normal."
But
that was one of those moments where, I still continued to. But yeah, that was a game changer. But
there was actual monkeys?
Yeah. The pet
How did
monkeys.
that work out?
Oh man, you don't
Pet
know.
monkeys.
It's so funny, sick, scary, whatever. But yeah, those are some moments. They weren't even rock bottom, but they were on the way. But like many of us, I am grateful and very lucky to be alive, and I'm grateful that I had to go through all this crap because it made me a spiritual person now, and I would have never had this beauty if it hadn't been for the suffering. And people that haven't went through some shit are the most boring.
No, the gift of desperation.
Yes.
And I remember hearing that over and over, and I'm like, what the heck? Who would want desperation? That is not no gift. And like you were saying, once I got on my knees and surrendered, and those things just kept happening and lining up and actually working out, now I can sit back and say, oh, I get it.
Yes.
And like you said, it's really effed up, the shit that I went through. But now I look back on those experiences, and that has opened me up to connect with so many people on so many levels. That, yeah, like a regular take it or leave it normal drinker, user, whatever you want to call it, will never get. And I feel like that kind of puts us on a totally different level of life. And I'm thankful because I feel like I read something that says people that have gone through what we've gone through, rock bottoms and, the shit show of life, and survived, we're actually almost, it actually said that we're almost, I don't want to say better, but just more thankful and grateful. And we really make a point to make our relationships important.
Yes.
And really do make our conversations important. And that's why I call this recovery family, because I do feel that depth. Because either you get it or you don't. And I can have a really light conversation with a normal drinker, and I tune out because I'm like, what are you bitching about? Like, I don't think you have any idea. I don't think you have, but it's unfair of me because I'll walk into the rooms and someone might be bitching about the exact same thing, but I also know they went through hell and they're probably very grateful to be bitching about those things. So I will listen to them. So I try not to be that prejudiced when it comes to, people that just haven't been through shit. It's not their fault. And I don't wish it on anyone. But like we've talked about, the gift of desperation, it just makes me more grateful for every day I get to wake up and every day I get to talk about this now and don't have to hide in that dark place alone. Okay, ready for question number 2? Time is running out. Question 2. That wasn't too bad, right?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, I actually already forgot what the next 2 are, so be ready. Okay. I'm glad I wrote them down. Jason, what is one statement or opinion or judgment that you hear in like the rooms or the world of recovery that rubs you the wrong way? Like, is there something that somebody says, you kind of hear it often in meetings that you're immediately like, okay, I got to say something. I got to speak up. I got to respond. Like, do you feel like it's just a statement that you might hear that immediately kind of rubs you the wrong way? And I can give you an example. I don't know if we spoke about this, but recently I've been speaking about it a lot. So it just comes natural to me. So I hate that term, relapse is a part of recovery. Yeah. Fuck that. Sorry. It makes me angry just talking about it because there's so many reasons I don't like that. The first thing I hear people say is, well, that's an excuse. No, it's for me, what I got upset about is when I did lose my kids, when I was in the shit show of court and years of that, the workers would be like, all of a sudden they'd be nice and they'd be like, well, relapse is a part of recovery. Oh, I hate the word relapse, by the way. I like to say reuse or reuse. And they pause, like they want me to say, like, admit something. And I already had learned, especially with CPS from other friends, do not tell on yourself or whatever. So every time they'd be like, well, the bridge, relapse is a part of recovery. And if there's anything, you need to say it's healthy. I'm like, shut the front door. I know what you're doing here. But somebody said to me in a room, and it's buried now. It's like on lock in my brain. And anytime I hear someone say relapse is a part of recovery, I want to say, like, I agree. Like, I needed those reuses and experiences to finally get to where I needed to go because I was so shielded. I needed those, but my sponsor is amazing. She's never relapsed. Okay, so she did not need to make that a part of her recovery to be the amazing person that she is, and that is some people, and good for them. But I like the term relapse is a lack of recovery. When someone said that, I'm like, yes, that makes sense, because every time I went back out there, it was because I wasn't doing everything. Like, I wasn't doing the steps. I wasn't reading the book. I stopped going to meetings. Like, I know for myself, I need all those things. I need a piece of recovery every single day, or I go back into that really quickly. So again, Jason, is there any like statement, opinion, judgment that kind of rubs you the wrong way?
Well, you just opened it up to what I almost would say is that when I hear people say, "Oh, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden I was just drinking again or using again." And I call bullshit on all that, because I know, but maybe that did happen with people. But if they're really honest with themselves, first, we quit going and listening to our sponsor or going to meetings. Second, and this takes a while to realize that a lot of our behaviors were instinctual almost, because that's how we survived in our addiction. But we slip back into old behaviors and we become an angry person. We have excuses. We have a whole bunch of reasons and justifications why, we're so angry and all this and that. Well, it's all a big setup that we scheme sometimes for months before that first use.
Downward
so
spiral.
That whole, it just happened all of a sudden. That it's like, oh, bullshit.
I've heard you say that in meetings.
And if you really pin somebody down and talk to them and they're honest about stuff, 9 times out of 10, they say, well, yeah, I did, And who knows? Maybe that does happen for some people, but man, you set yourself up for it, even unconsciously. But, cunning, baffling, and powerful, they say, that's all true. This program, Alcoholics Anonymous anyway, and the steps are more powerful than that. So if you work them and you have a sharing partner, a sponsor, you come to meetings, work the steps, then you will have, and keep working those steps, you will have all the tools you need to not let that happen.
It works if you work it.
That's right.
Faith without works is dead. Action. Okay, let's move on to the last question. So I went to the speaker meeting at 2218 last night, and the speaker Jo M was really wonderful. And she's funny because she's like, it's just, she had to grasp this term, just being simply sober. And she's like, you think about that. And of course, immediately I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to figure this out by the end of her speaking. Simply sober. What? I've never heard of that. But the more she talked and the more I just let it process from it, I love it, because it's, we could say that, well, I was drunk or I was high, that's why I acted the way I am, that's why I did those things. Like, that is the fact of being, now that you're sober and you're just simply sober, you're still you, right? So like all those dumb things that I might have done, I won't talk about her story too much, but she just, if you were a klutz before, you're still a klutz, but you're sober. If you were a kind of a jackass, whatever, before, like, you're sober, but you're still kind of a jackass. You might need to work on yourself. So on that note, my question is, being simply sober, what has been the hardest moment or situation that you've had on your path of recovery where you almost did trip? Like, you have, 7 years now?
In February, but no, I only have like 6.5.
So 6.5 of good sobriety. And in that time, would you say there has been a moment, like a moment where on your path of recovery, I love to say this because no matter how far, 6 years, 10 years, 50 years, we're on this beautiful path of recovery. No matter how far that distance is, that distance to the ditch will always be the same.
Yeah, you're only that far from the ditch.
And when I first heard that, I'm like, that's scary. And it's true.
It is true.
So have you had moments where you were in this wonderful 6.5 years, where you were like, almost tripped?
I'm glad you asked that question, because this is unusual almost. And it's hard for me to believe, but I can say I have not. And I've had horrible things happen. I mean, not that horrible, but
Oh, I know.
deaths
Recently, this year has been rough,
and it has.
and for
my
most people.
my best friend and cousin, my mom, and people that things that before would have been excuses for me to. I honestly didn't bat an eyelash,
Mhm.
and this alcohol and drugs are around me all the time, and it doesn't bother me.
Mhm.
I honestly can say that because of that surrender part and me working this program over and over and over,
Mhm.
um, has kept me. It's that promise about the desire will be lifted from you or whatever that has come true for me, and I'm astounded and amazed that this has happened for
Mhm.
real. And when you ask that question, I can honestly, and I'm being honest, I have not had, there's been a couple times where it's like, oh, a hit would feel good right now, but just for a second, and I think about it, but they're not even a craving like they used to be or anything.
Right.
And there was never a point where it's like, oh, I have to stop myself and call my sponsor.
Right.
That hasn't happened this whole time, and it's because I swear it's because of
obsession is
has
lifted.
been lifted, yes.
Mhm.
And it started with the surrender part. I really actually surrendered. We like to take our will into stuff. Well, I turned it over, and I didn't even know what my higher power was or anything. But I was just like, "Fuck this! I can't do this. I can't do this. You do it.
Let it go."
So I like to keep it. I can't. She can. Let her.
Yeah. Well, okay, and I want to tell you that I 100% believe you, because in all of my years of recovery, this last almost 2 years now, and some of the shit that I've gone through recently. I mean, starting with COVID, it's kind of been a circus. And I got to tell everyone about this, Jason. It's great. So Jason is wonderful. He does not live on Facebook. He doesn't have a Facebook. He literally in his pocket right now is a flip phone, old school. Okay. And I appreciate that about him. Keeps it real simple. And that, one day I would love to get to that point. To be honest, live off the grid and all that. But recently, we won't give too recent of a timeline, but like I was struggling by forces that were out of my control, part of them. And so financially, first I ran out of minutes on my phone. So that was kind of a red flag to people. And I love my family in recovery. So I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm going to get minutes in a couple weeks. It'll be fine. Unfortunately, though, very shortly, I think within a week, my electricity was shut off. So I try to be the person that's like, I'm like, don't hesitate, ask for help, reach out. Do I do that myself? I wait till the last minute till my no phone and electricity shut off. So okay, so it was okay though, because I knew at that point I needed to go down to assistance and see what they could do to help me, because I knew I did not have $400 some to get my electricity turned on anytime soon. And luckily my teenagers put faith in me. They went to their dads, but they had trusted me that I would legitly. I said, just go to your dad so you can have your Wi-Fi. It's going to be a day or two. I'm going to get through this. And we did just like camp out one night with the lantern. It was fine. But I love you, because literally on day 2 of no electricity, and by then I already got good news that it would be on, and I just needed whatever payment. But all of a sudden I hear old me was like, why the fuck are the cops here? Like, who's knocking at my door right now? Nobody should be bothering me. My heart's gone. And I'm like, it's okay, Bridge. Yes, so what? You're clear-headed. There's nobody. It's gonna be fine. Answer the door. And I answered, it's you. And I'm like, oh, hi, Jason. And at first, naive Bridge's like, oh, what's up? Like, when you stop by your area. I'm not thinking. I'm just happy to see you, because you were the first person I had seen since this shit had happened. And, we talked or whatever. And then after you left, and I felt like, oh, good. Somebody, knows I'm okay. He'll spread the word. Like, I'm not in a bad place. And like you said, my mind did not go into reusing at all. Like, I just was in I was definitely in the fight or flight mode though. Like, I need to get shit together. And then after I processed and I calmed down and electricity's back on, I'm like, wait a second. Did he think I relapsed? Oh my gosh. And at first I was like offended. Like, why would he think I would? But then I was like, you know what? He's known recently all the crap that's been mounted up before this happened. This might be looking like an end of the rope thing. So I do not let things sit and bother me, even if they're light things. But I called you and I straight up said, Jason, did you think I relapsed? And he honestly said, well, I just had to check, just make sure you're okay. And I appreciate that because, yeah, for me, 8 years ago, that's exactly what would have been my go-to. Numbing out all that fear, numbing out any pain or embarrassments. Like, I don't want to feel these feelings. And today, like, I actually thrive on feeling my feelings because I know it's going to be temporary. And at the end of it, I come out feeling like, oh, I'll see you, pat on the back. You're okay. Yep. You can stay sober.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, so that was the hot seat. And it is already 9:00.
Nice.
So the last segment, and like I said, this is a test podcast. Next week, we'll better gauge the time. And I'm curious to hear how our audio and all that went. So again, Jason has no Facebook, which is wonderful. I know I've had to shut my shit down for a few days or weeks sometimes, but it gets overwhelming. Now it doesn't, but I'm going to show Jason some fun memes that I personally have either thought was funny or I was like, oh yeah, that's something good. I'm going to flash him a meme from Facebook. And on Facebook, you either thumbs up or thumbs down, or there's no thumbs down, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to say thumbs down.
Okay.
But thumbs up it if you like it. And if you have a comment that comes to your mind, go ahead and share that. So you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
We don't have to go through all of them, but I just didn't want to be underprepared. So here's my favorite one. And the guests can't see us, but it is a puppy dog sitting in the car as a passenger. And it says, after listening to his owner drone on for hours, Ralph suddenly realized he was not cut out to be an emotional support dog after all.
He's got the look.
He's got the face.
Absolutely. I love it.
Did you like that one?
Yeah. Because a lot of our stuff is pretty petty when you put it into perspective, man. That's so perfect.
I'm that weirdo at night that just will laugh on and on and entertaining myself. Okay, that one's kind of lame. Okay, this one's nice. You want to read that one out loud?
It says, make your weird light shine so bright that other weirdos know where to find you. Oh, yeah. That's what it's all about.
It's a lantern.
I'm one of the weird guys,
Yeah, we want to find each other, right?
Oh, I put it out there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. People find me. The weirdos.
The weirder, the better. Okay, this one's my favorite. And anything to do with SpongeBob memes, I can literally hear SpongeBob or Patrick's voice. I mean, my oldest is going to be 18 soon. And so I've gone through 18 years of SpongeBob and Patrick. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, this one's great. Read this one.
After not paying attention the whole conversation. That's crazy. In a box.
SpongeBob's opening up a box that says, reply, that's crazy.
Nice.
I accidentally sometimes do that. My attention span does that. And I respond, oh,
squirrel.
Squirrel. Yeah. Okay, so this one's just a beautiful one, I think.
Recovery didn't open the gates of heaven and let me in. Recovery opened the gates of hell and let me out. Yes. That is so
thumbs
true.
Up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I'm back.
We've been there.
Okay, here's just a funny one and describe it. So there's a person waving in a car and there's a cup of coffee on the roof.
Oh, nice. I was lonely until I glued a coffee cup onto my car. Now everybody waves at me. I'm going to try that. Have you ever? I left a beer can on my bumper of my truck and drove across the state.
Oh my
with
gosh!
A beer can on my bumper, and
how'd
it
that
was
go?
Still there when I got home.
Seriously, nobody honked at you or anything?
No.
Flagged you down?
No.
I
think
Jason,
I got pulled out?
I love that you said that because that was my immediate thought. I want to try that.
Yeah.
Put the empty coffee cup on my car.
And everybody waves.
And I'll just naively wave back like I don't know why they're waving. Oh, hi! Okay, this one's kind of going along the lines.
Normalize telling your friends you love them. Tell them a lot. Make it weird.
Make it weird. And I do that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually have gotten to the point where now that I've read this, I make it more of a point. I was talking to my poor friend. No, she's not my friend Michelle. She gets a little overwhelmed with me sometimes. It goes back and forth. But I made a point because I think I've never told her I loved her. So after this long conversation, I'm like, okay, she's like, well, you have a good day, Bridge. I'm like, I love you. And there was an awkward pause.
A long pause.
And she's like, I love you too. So
we make sure we tell our friends that all the time.
yes. Yes, and I usually try to keep it to like people I've known, mostly girls and just people that I've known for a while. But now I'm like, oh, that just gives me the open door.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, there's this has a double one on it.
When we recover loudly, we keep others from dying silently. Oh, nice. Yeah. So true.
That is the point of this podcast.
Yes.
And
the good news is I'll always be honest with you. The bad news, I'll always be honest with you. Oh, I hope my wife's listening.
Yes, and I do warn people, like, it's not meant to, like, I literally keep it simple. And I literally don't overthink things. And sometimes there's no filter. And I accidentally am too honest.
Sometimes that filter can be good.
Yes, especially in meetings. I definitely walk into meetings, and that for me brings that, ego or that humbleness down.
Deliver us from ego.
Yes, I say that too. When I say that, I change that evil word to ego. This is the last one. It's a cute guinea pig with pink heart glasses on.
Can't see all the haters when I got my love glasses on.
Haters love me. Okay, Jason, I think you did well.
Well,
I think this went well.
Yeah, I think
Wouldn't you say? So I'll just throw this out there. Next week, one thing that Jason pointed out, and I love that you said this, is like for anything to be successful, you just got to be consistent, right?
Cool.
And so one thing that I do want to promise with this podcast, however long it does go, is I will be here. At that time, I say it will be on time, and it will be consistent, and you can count on that.
Cool.
And I want to welcome you. So we did read through some of the comments. Oh, they're all so nice. But I propose that from this point on, I'm gonna, you have the links for YouTube and Facebook, but there's an email too. But reach out if you have any questions or topics or comments that you want to talk about next week. Send those to me before Sunday, and we will bring them up. But the other key thing, my mini me, Juliet, mentioned in a very casual way, that I think is pretty important for some of us, is codependency. So that is going to be at least one thing for sure that's going to be mentioned next week. So you have any information or questions or comments about codependency, that will be one thing we will touch on next week. So Jason, I did have one, and it's funny because you kind of already mentioned it in our conversation, but I have one quote that I want to end our session with. You ready?
Yep.
And I actually had to print it because every time I try to re-say it and sound smart, I mess it up. But it's Mark Twain.
Oh my
Mark Twain. And it says, if you tell the truth, you don't ever have to remember anything. Isn't that great?
So true.
Because it is true.
Yes.
I don't have to that's where they catch. I've seen it on the criminal shows.
Mm-hmm.
Is how they catch criminals is they wait amount of time because you won't remember your lies, and they will catch the smartest criminals because they can't remember their own lies. And me, I live in this freedom where I just live in truth as much as possible. Like there's a little thing called white lies. Like I'm not gonna tell you, ooh, yeah, your whatever outfit is. I'll say it's unique, but I'm not gonna be like, yikes.
Don't be an asshole.
You don't have to be fully truthful all the time. Like that's just unreasonable. But if you're telling white lies and it's meant, in goodness and doing the next right thing, it's okay.
Yeah,
you do not have to be like perfect.
Yes.
Progress, right?
You don't want to be hurting people.
Right.
You don't want to punch nobody in the feelings.
Let's not punch them in the feelings.
No.
Or the face.
No.
So Jason, thank you.
Thank you, Bridge.
For being my first victim.
For the listeners too, you can put up some links to different resources and stuff.
Absolutely. Is there any you want to throw out there right now?
No.
How about Back to Basics? Let's throw that out there again. Yeah. Tuesday nights. Fridley, Alano, 6:15.
Yeah.
And
we might be doing that on Zoom soon, but we'll keep you posted on that.
Hybrid meetings where it's at. And I think they're going to get some really good Wi-Fi hooked up here. Mm-hmm. And then, that'll open up a lot of doors, a lot of ears.
I want that to happen. I don't like Zoom, but, if it's reaching more people.
Winter's coming, Jason. And some people have shitty cars, me. And it doesn't really, I sometimes can't get out of my house. So at least Zoom gives me that still like window. That's where the COVID thing was beneficial to us isolators and hermits, and sometimes people that are stuck in their house for years because of codependency or controlling weird situations. So
Yeah. And I think, a bad word of advice from Mark Twain is never put off until tomorrow what you can do the day after tomorrow. Because you want to do this stuff now.
Yes.
You want to get into this recovery thing right away and mean it and work it and just do it. Just do it.
Live in the action.
Yes.
All right, Jason.
Thank you, Briggs.
Thank you, listeners. Hope you enjoyed. And please, feedback. I want the feedbacks. All right, have a good night. And signing up and broadcast.